NaNoWriMo is here, and whether you planned ahead or not, I'm here to help you meet your challenge of 50,000 words by the end of the month. I'm even going to share with you the one tip that finally helped me break through to 50K.
Best tip I ever got.
It's a tough one, and I still struggle with it, but if you can get the hang of it, you're never going to look back. Fear not, noble storytellers, I am here to help save your sanity and your hair. Are you a plotter or a pantser? If you haven't asked yourself this question by now, you might want to. See, if you're a plotter, you probably have already spent the month of October or Preptober preparing an outline and all the information that you're going to need on hand to write your 50K during the month of November. If you're a pantser, you may not have prepared anything and you intend on going in blind because that is the method that works best for you. The first couple nanos I participated in, I prepared and made an entire outline so that I knew exactly what I was going to write every single day of the month. I learned very quickly that I would get bored. There was no surprise. I knew how the story was going to begin. I knew how it was going to end. I knew what happened in the middle. I knew who all the characters were, and there was just no joy in it for me. And apparently, I think I need joy when I write.
Go figure.
So I decided to experiment with my writing one year and change it up. I did not prep anything in October, and I will tell you that was nerve-wracking, knowing that I was going in blind. However, that year, there was so much joy in my writing.
Happy.
I definitely created more work for myself because there were plot holes and things that I hadn't intended as I was writing. However, I was able to crank out twice or maybe even 3 times as much in the month than I had in the previous 2 years. So I would encourage you to consider experimenting. You might find that you are not the type of writer that you thought, that a different method a different method works better in your brain. Make sure that you establish a writing schedule. Now, plotters have probably already done this because that's what they do. They plot and they plan. However, if you are a pantser, I encourage you to take a look at your schedule for the next 30 days.
Do I have to?
Do you have days coming up where you won't be able to get as much writing done? Birthdays, holidays, weddings.
I hate weddings, and I hate Valentine's Day.
If you can plan around those things, make sure that you do. Also consider that you may have days on your calendar coming up that you can spend the entire day writing and make up for those other days where you can't write. So as you plan how many words per day, per week, for the month that you plan on hitting, you can plot those out so that you can meet that goal and plan for success. Also consider the ideal time for you to write. If you happen to be a parent with young kids, that might be early in the morning while they're asleep, late at night, or maybe while they're at school if you happen to be a work from home parent. If that's not your situation, you may just need to find the time that allows you to have complete quiet. Or perhaps you're the kind of writer that likes chaos in the background and you need some noise. You need to find a nice, busy coffee shop. Go when it's busy. Myself personally, my husband works a rotating shift. So whenever he's on his graveyards, I find that to be the most productive time for me. It's usually in the evenings. My son doesn't need me anymore. Grab a glass of whiskey and just have this nice kind of quiet, cozy, intimate setting to write. So whatever time of day works best for you, make sure you consider that when you are looking ahead in your schedule. You also want to plan around being able to focus and have consistency and a routine. So if there are certain times of the day where you are constantly being contacted, texted, called, emailed, maybe plan to not write during those times, or you need to find time and plan to have everything on Do Not Disturb. Just remember, you don't want to borrow against time that you don't have. So plan to front load your schedule as much as you can. If you fall behind in your word count, it is a lot harder for you to catch up because it kind of snowballs on you. And being able to write 500 words a day is much more manageable than waiting to the end of the month and trying to catch up with 20,000 words in 3 days. Seek allies, okay? And what I mean by this is writing can be a really lonely and isolating process. So if you're the type of person that feeds off of people and interactions, then this may be the tip for you. Maybe you want to be left alone to write, but you need the sound of people around you. Again, think about working in a coffee shop. Take a very long lunch and, have your food and then write in a restaurant. Find a nice busy plaza or square just so that you have the noise and ambiance of people around you. Join some writing communities. There's plenty of them online. By joining writing communities, you have like minded individuals that you can talk shop with. You can troubleshoot an area that maybe you're stuck on. You can just report your progress and know that someone will understand. And sometimes that's all we need. Get an accountability buddy.
The thing is, I don't really need a buddy.
This can be anyone. It can be your parent, your child, your friend, your neighbor, but have someone that you have to report to at the end of the day and say, I wrote 500 words, 1,200 words, 10 words. I wrote for 10 minutes. Whatever it is, have someone that you have to be accountable to and ask them the favor of, hey, if I don't check in with you today, text me, check in with me because I might need that push.
I need help.
On the same note, share your progress every day, whether, again, you're sharing with your friends or family, whether it's just a social media post, okay? Even if people don't care what you're doing, just sharing your progress every day is a nice little milestone marker for you to know where you're at and to have a visual clue, a visual marker that you are progressing in your story. It's kind of like a quick little dopamine hit. I did this thing, everybody. Pat me on the back.
Pat on the back. Pat on the back. Come on.
Just remember that you're not alone. Even though you may feel alone while you're writing, there are so many others that are trying to attempt what you are attempting as well. Do what you can to prevent burnout. I get it. 50K is a large number to just have looming over your head for the rest of the month. And you may feel tempted to just crank out as much as you can in the beginning. And I know it sounds counterintuitive because I just told you to try to front load your schedule. However, you don't want to burn yourself out. NaNoWriMo is a bit of a sprint, but writing in general is a marathon. Make sure that you plan breaks to eat, to drink, to go to the bathroom. You might be laughing while I'm telling you this, but I have had instances where I have needed the reminder. Take a walk or exercise, even if it's just for 10 minutes. And I'm going to give you a little story here.
Another boring story?
I have shared many times with my viewers that exercising or going out for a walk is the best way for me to brainstorm or to get unblocked. Okay, and this is how I do it. Let's say I have written myself into a corner. What the heck is my character going to do here? It doesn't make sense. I haven't figured it out. What's going to be the outcome? I will go for a little walk and I'll just let my brain float on the problem. All right. This is how I describe it. My brain just kind of sits there, kind of stewing in this trouble. And I then kind of start to get these creative notions. I'm not sure if it's nature or not, but just being outside, the creativity just starts happening. And I'll start thinking, what if this? What if this? Ooh, what if I thought I was going to do this, but now I'm going to flip it? And I really just start coming at this problem at all angles. Visualize your brain floating, okay? And I'm taking my brain and I'm turning it upside down. And now I'm going to look at it from this angle. And what if I turn it this way? And what if I turn it this way, but then turn it upside down? Now I've figured out the answer to my problem. You could also engage in other activities that aren't necessarily exercise, but they tap into your imagination.
Imagination.
For example, I find myself really inspired when I watch anything to do with science or nature. And that includes science fiction, but I don't want to derail my progress by falling into a science fiction book or movie, right? So I will turn on a documentary, something about animals, something about science. And even if I watch it for 10 minutes, something that I watch will engage my brain. I'll hear something interesting like a prototype for a car that can fly. Has nothing to do with my story, but for some reason my brain will start thinking about, flight. Haven't thought about flight yet. That problem that I was thinking about, I wonder if I could introduce flight as a mechanic And maybe that can save my story, my scene right here. It may not always work, but just tapping into something that feeds your creativity can help down the road if it doesn't help in the instance. I would also suggest that you find some music that inspires you or helps you to focus. I find that any music with words can be really distracting for me, especially if I know the song, because now I want to sing along to it. So I find instrumental music to be very helpful to me. And that doesn't always mean classical. If you do a search online, Spotify, Pandora, what have you, find some, I don't know, video game music, movie scores. Sometimes that kind of music can really get you in the mood for whatever scene you're about to write. If you're about to write a high action scene, maybe find some really fast hitting, heartbeat moving kind of music. If you're writing a very sad, mournful scene, obviously find some very sad, epic sweeping music. And lastly, I would suggest to you that if you find yourself hitting a wall and you feel like you're burning yourself out, really meditate on the reason that you started this, the reason that you wanted to do this, because writing is really hard and there are a lot of unforeseen challenges, and you're going to need that spark, whatever lit the fire in you to write. You're going to want to hang on to that. Don't let that fire go out. The process of writing is long and arduous, so find that notion that keeps the fire going. In just a minute, we're going to go over that one tip that really helped me break through to 50K.
50K! I love you, baby!
In the meantime, if you found this video helpful and you want to see more content from my channel focused on world building, tell that YouTube algorithm and hit that like and subscribe button. In the spirit of NaNoWriMo, gratefulness, and Thanksgiving, I'm planning on doing a few giveaways this month, so you don't want to miss out. Now, back to the writing tips. You've heard people say it before, celebrate your successes, right?
Yay!
I like to think of it a little differently. I'm a gamer, so I've noticed that, when you play, whether it's, phone games, video games, computer games, a lot of times you will get a little badge for, I don't know, you kicked 20 chickens in the game in the last 10 minutes. Here's a little badge. You collected all the moon shards in this chapter. Here, you get a little check mark that says you completed this level 100%. You've been undefeated on this game for 5 rounds. Whatever it is, those are quick little dopamine hits that tell your brain, hooray, you did a thing. It wasn't the full thing. You didn't beat the game completely, but you did a thing in the game, and it's worth noting. So the game gives you a little ding, you did it, and your heart just goes, ah, I did do that. How awesome is that? This is what I want you to do for yourself. Break down the larger goal of 50,000 words into very small, manageable, easy to get little goals. That could look like write for 10 minutes today, write 10,000 words in 2 weeks, write 500 words in 4 hours. Goals that you know that you will be able to get by the end of the day, because you want to be able to succeed. You want to be able to give yourself this badge and the pat on the back and the dopamine hit.
Start them on dopamine. Already done.
Make sure you set yourself a few different small goals. That way, if you don't hit one, you'll hit the other. And then at the end of the day, I want you to celebrate them. What does that look like? Maybe it's you get a Hershey kiss for every 10 minutes that you write.
This Hershey's kiss is melted.
Maybe it's you get to watch 10 minutes of your favorite show for every 30 minutes that you write. Maybe it's if you get to 500 words by the end of the day, you get a glass of wine or a glass of whiskey. Whatever motivates you, find those rewards that you actually look forward to. Prepare for writer's block. It's bound to happen. Whether you're a plotter or a pantser, it's bound to happen.
Oh, writer's block, writer's block.
So you want to make sure that you put some strategies in place so that when you identify that you have hit a writer's block, you can quickly manage it. NaNoWriMo is about your quantity and not the quality or necessarily the content that you're writing.
Say what?
So have prepared in advance a few writing prompts. That way, if you hit a wall, instead of sitting there and trying to brainstorm and troubleshoot for 10, 20, 30 minutes, those are 10, 20, 30 minutes that you could be writing. Instead, move on to a writing prompt, such as, what would you do if you had red hair and you were invisible? You could also prepare to write a journal, whether it's, boy, I'm really stuck right now, so now I'm going to write about why I'm stuck and what's the problem. Or it could just be a journal about your day, your week, your month, and your personal life. If you have multiple characters in a scene and you happen to be stuck, try writing that scene from a different perspective. It could really shake things up and you might find that you like it better. And if not, it might just shake out something that helps you to fix the issue that you were stuck on. If that doesn't work, and you're stuck on a scene, try writing the scene with a different outcome. Now, this works if you're a plotter because you had planned for this scene to end with an explosion. But for some reason, you're stuck getting to that explosion and you can't seem to write the scene. Try changing the outcome so that instead of ending with an explosion, it ends with an implosion. It ends with a collapse. It ends with an avalanche. Something different to shake things up, even if that's not the intention for your story, at least it gets you moving, it gets you writing, and you're getting the word quantity out. I would also suggest to you to skip the scene entirely. If you hit a roadblock, move on to the next scene. This works for folks who write linearly. Is that a word? Linearly? Anyway, because you might know, okay, after the scene where there's this implosion, now the paramedics show up and now this is going to happen and then the dragon swoops in. So if you know what the next scene will be, go ahead and move to that. You can always come back and fix this other scene once you figure it out. But again, you're going for word quantity here. So move on to the next scene. If you happen to be a pantser, you might be the kind of person that likes to write scenes out of order. So in that case, you can write any other scene. It really doesn't matter. If you're the kind of writer that likes to skip scenes or write your scenes out of order, my next tip is for you, and that is to stay organized and save your work. Make sure that you find writing apps or writing software that's really going to help you organize. Now, it looks different for everyone, right? My personal favorite is worlddanvil, and if you haven't tried it, I highly suggest it. I love worlddanvil because it's basically like creating your own wiki for your world.
Wiki page, here I come.
There are different areas to write about your characters, your settings, your plots, and much, much more that I haven't even gone into yet. What I love about it is I can write about my main character. I can include everything I need to remember about this person, whether it's their appearance, their childhood, their perspectives and beliefs, where they're from. And let's say they happen to be from the city of Hamlin. Well, I don't have any information on what the city of Hamlin looks like, what it entails, where even in the world Hamlin is. So now I can go to another section of worlddanvil and I can write all about Hamlin, what it looks like. I can even upload pictures and maps, and then I can connect the two so that later on down the road, as I'm writing, I can be writing about my main character and go, gosh, what was that shop that this main character liked to go to that was in the city of Hamlin? I could either go look up my character in worlddanvil, or my character now links to the city of Hamlin, and then I can click on that link and now I have that information as well. So for me, this method of organization works really, really well. This video is not sponsored by worlddanvil. However, I'm going to include a link down below so that you can check it out. You can make an account for free and you can try all the basic features. However, I will warn you that not all the features will be available to a free account and the file space is limited. However, if you're curious, I highly suggest that you give it a try. Some other tools and software that I know writers prefer are Scrivener and OneNote. Both of them have this ability where you can write your scenes on, let's call it like a tab, right? There's a tab, you write your scene. move on to the next tab, write your next scene. And what most writers I know like about this feature is that once they're done writing all of their scenes, they can decide on what order they want the scenes to be in. They can break things up. You might find that as you completed the story, you didn't foreshadow certain things well in advance.
Aw, crap!
So you can take those scenes that foreshadow it and you can move them. You don't have to rewrite anything. You don't have to copy and paste. I have tried it and I have found it useful. You can also use other apps like MS Word and Google Docs. And Google Docs is another one that I do enjoy using because it autosaves. And this is something you're going to find in your work, especially during NaNoWriMo when word count is so precious. You don't want to lose any work. Don't delete anything. Don't delete your scenes. They're still viable. And as you write, you don't want to lose anything by mistake. So make sure that you are saving often and make sure that you back up your writing. And now finally, the one tip that finally helped me break through to 50K.
Finally.
And I personally feel this is the one tip that most folks who participate in NaNoWriMo need.
Just get to it already!
And that is to let go of your inner editor. This one has been the hardest. I struggle with it still because I am a little bit of a perfectionist. Now is not the time for perfection. It's okay to have imperfect sentences and spelling, imperfect language and grammar. It's okay to have plot holes and missing scenes. You want to push your way forward with whatever scenes you're inspired to write during this month. Just push your way to the end. Any ending. Even if it's a bad ending, because you can always fix a bad story. You cannot fix a non-existent story. So what if your sentence reads, "The Milan in back fed across the dessert, and the gunfinger flowed." If you know what the sentence means, then leave it. Don't worry about correcting it. Keep moving. NaNoWriMo is about quantity and not quality. Repeat after me. Mistakes are good. Mistakes are fine. Keep going. You can correct it later. Keep going. Remember, NaNoWriMo is not just about quantity over quality. It is also an exercise in discipline and determination.
Ooh, discipline. Kinky.
Even if you only complete 30,000 words this month, it's still more than you started with and worth celebrating. If you don't complete your goal this month, then make sure you keep track of what worked for you and what aspects of NaNoWriMo you still struggle with. Because whatever you end up completing, it's still worth working on in December and into the new year. If I missed any tips or tricks, make sure to comment below because I'm sure that some other writer is going to need that help. Now, what are you doing here?
Get out of here.
It's NaNoWriMo. Go write 500 words. Go, get on, and make sure that you celebrate your successes because Purdy Nerdy said so.